Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. In the last part we explored Great Bay a good bit, and got ourselves the first two of the 7 Zora eggs we need to rescue from the Pirate Fortress, as well as we got the hookshot. And now, before we do anything else, we have to go deposit the 2 eggs we have, because I only have 2 bottles and we cannot do that in one visit. Again, unless you go super out of your way. You cannot really do the Pirate's Fortress in one visit. And it's one point I wish that the remake optimized a little more, and they did a little bit by giving you, by moving that 1 bottle over to the Koame Target Gallery in post-Woodfall Temple, Southern Swamp, but it feels like they could have done one more step, maybe. With that, though, before we head back to the Pirate's Fortress, and by the way, to put the eggs in, you just have to come up here to the top of the aquarium and get close to the center of it and place them in. If you're, like, right on the edge, you won't be able to. It's kind of a weird hitbox, honestly. We're now going to eschew returning to the Pirate's Fortress and head back to Snowhead and do some other things around Termina very quickly, because there's another side quest I want to set up that requires us heading this direction. On top of that, you might remember at the start of this 3-day cycle, we played a song for Pierre the Scarecrow over in the general store, and we can actively use that in this screen behind where the owl statue is. You might remember this, we were here on our way to Snowhead. In order to actually make this flow well, you're going to need the hookshot as well as the Lens of Truth out. That's why I waited until now to do this, because you need the hookshot to do this, period. Here we go! Dick. Once you get to the middle platform of these 3, you can just get out of the Goron form, put on your Lens of Truth, and you will see platforms just like when Kaepora Gaebora led us to the Lens of Truth, or I guess led us out of there. And once you get to the end of them, you need to play your respective Scarecrow song, whatever you made it be. Again, that's why I made it left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, because that's fast, and I don't have to worry about memorizing anything. At this point, Pierre will spawn, and you can just hookshot over to him. This is what I mean about the hookshot seeming like it has a longer range than it did in Ocarina by default, because you can hit him from all the way over here. But I don't think it's the long shot length exactly, and that gets us a piece of heart. But now, we're going to use the Song of Soaring once again to go back to the owl statue just next to us, because I have business at Snowhead Temple itself. And I actually don't remember if I cut directly into there, do I? Actually, I sort of do. I guess I showed this little part where I play Goron's Lullaby, but that's about it. You do need to go through the entire process of playing the dungeon song again to enter any of the given dungeons. So this is not an awakening for Woodfall Temple and this for here. But once you get inside is where things get a little interesting. Because once you go into the front door, this happens. Ye who hold my remains, return to the appointed place to face me. If you were wondering what was with the weird tree stump with Majora's Mask emblazoned on it when we were in Woodfall Temple and here, anytime you've beaten a dungeon boss and you go back into that dungeon on future 3-day cycles, they give you a fast-track teleport straight to the boss in order to set the world state of that region back to after the boss fight. And I want to do that in order to do one of the side quests. You do need to refight the boss. With that said, if you do things optimally, the only boss you really ever have to refight is Goat. At the least, you're probably going to need to fight him twice. I often do 3 fights against him total, which is kind of tedious, but oh well. It's why I say he's both my favorite and least favorite boss in the game, because I think he does a good job using the area's transformation abilities, but also I have to fight him 3 times per run. We're just going to speed that up, just to go and make it a little faster. And the next time I refight him, we're just going to cut straight to this point. So why did I go through all that? Well, you might remember the smithy here. We're actively going to do the side quest involving this place on this 3-day cycle. Because now that we have Zora Link, we have a good attack option at all times. Gaebora, fetch our customer something quick like. Now then, let me take a look at your sword.
Alright, to reforge your sword it'll cost 100 rupees. It'll be ready at sunrise. You'll have to let us hold on to your sword until then. Keep in mind that after you use your reforged sword 100 times, it'll lose its edge and it'll be back to its original sharpness. So, would you like your sword to be reforged for 100 rupees? Yep. Thanks for dropping in. Now then, I'm straight off to work. Come back tomorrow morning.
Ooga. So now I am swordless for the rest of this 3-day cycle. With that said, you might have noticed he said, yeah, if you use this sword 100 times, it'll be reforged. That's because, or it'll go back to its original sharpness. That's because this is a 2-part side quest. You not only need to give it to him once, but we need to give it to him again after that, and it requires the gold dust that we got for winning the Goron racetrack. Meet, I think, the second to last time we're ever going to use powder kegs. With that said, I'm not doing the Goron racetrack just yet, because I still need 2 bottles to get the 2 eggs at the Pirate's Fortress, so we're gonna wait a little bit on that. Plus, we don't need it until the dawn of the second day at the earliest. But before we leave and head back to the Pirate's Fortress, we actually want to get into the water here in this part of Snowhead once it's the spring, because there's 2 treasure chests you can get in here with the water melted. One of which is this, which I think is a purple rupee? Red rupee. Wow, that's completely worthless. But the other one is the more important one, and I think you can even see it when the water's frozen. It's got gold trim, so you know it's going to be big. As soon as I find it, because I really went the long way to get to there. There you are. For climbing into the water, once it's melted, you get yourself a pretty free piece of heart. Additionally, I don't really show this off, but there's also an extra pathway that opens in the mountain village after you've opened up Spring, and it's more or less a door that leads straight up to Darmani's grave. Not that there's ever a reason you really need to go there besides, I guess, hot spring water, but there's no reason to go there for hot spring water for the rest of the game, really? There's a use for hot spring water down the line, but there's another way to get it by then anyway. So, let's head back to Great Bay Coast and get started on that there Pirate's Fortress second half. Thank God for editing. So, a pretty nice thing about the Pirate's Fortress is that anytime you revisit here, even if you reset the 3-day cycle after getting the hookshot for some reason, you can get in faster on the second visit than you can the first time. You don't need to go through that entire underwater sequence that we went through in the tunnel on the bottom right of the map at the moment. If we head over to where we hit that Goron switch over here to open up that underwater passageway, there's just a hookshot target you can use to get to the top right of the map and get into the door to the main fortress. Now, I wish I had noticed that on my first playthrough, because the first time I got over here, if memory serves, I went the long way around not realizing. I swear I'm observant. Inconsistently, admittedly. Mind you, I also played this game for the first time through. Ooh, that was bad. You tell I was not looking at the screen at that point? I guess when I first played this game through all the way, I was, like, less than 10 years old, so me not being as observant as I am now makes sense, but yeah, those are memories that'll stick with you. The hookshot targets in Ocarina of Majora always make me laugh in retrospect, because when I was a kid, I took them as a circle with a random smile in the middle of them. It's meant to be like a little latch that you hook the hookshot onto by sort of probably like swinging around it, sort of like the grapple hook does in Wind Waker to get around any poles. I was completely off the mark. Also, you might notice there's a couple of treasure chests just out and about in the Pirate Fortress. I think those are all 50 to 100 rupees, which means, hey, if you're going for money grinding, might be a good idea to get those, but I don't really need them. I grind through the other methods anyway. Also, here's something fun. Hookshot onto the torches in these areas as soon as you hit the right one. Because even though they don't look like it, they are technically counted as wood. Halt! We aren't fooled by that mask. Second verse, same as the first. I don't even think any of these further Gyarados pirate fights get actively harder. The only thing that might be a little harder about some of them is their room size. In the case of this room, for instance, this room is like half the size of the last one we were in. So getting hit by like the super attack might be easier and all that. With that said, boomerang strategy trumps all. Don't think it ends here. For you it does, because we don't see you ever again. I always found the icon on that door we just went through kind of weird. It's meant to be like one of their swords in their hands, but it looks weirdly like it's meant to be a switchblade at the same time, and that just doesn't seem right. They do place some enemies in every single one of the Zora egg tanks. The most annoying one of them was the clam enemies from Ocarina of Time, if only because you can't really easily kill them unless they're attacking you anyway. And even then, you can't actively attack too well as the Zora when you're descending unless you're using the R button to make that magic spurt out of you. And even then, that was made a little different in the 3DS version to begin with, as I mentioned before. Also, I should actually correct something from last time. I said, I think last time, that Shiro, the soldier who gives you the stone mask, isn't over in Ikana Valley. He's in the outside section of the Pirate's Fortress. Technically, that's still true in that he's in the open air here in Pirate's Fortress, but where he actually is near the tower in the center of this area. So you do have to get around the Gyarados on the boats in the outside section still, which can be kind of annoying, but you can just go underwater as the Zora and it's no problem. I do like that they moved it out of the way to be closer to here so you can get it when it's actively helpful to you, but I just prefer going to Ikana to get it anyway, if only because it's not that long to get into there to begin with. And thus time for Gyarado number 3, and ma'am, you're off screen. On top of that, another change from last time in the 3DS release. The heart piece we got here in the Gyarado Fortress that you had like Goron roll down the stairway to get in the door in time. I think that timer was adjusted in the 3DS version to be a little more generous, so you don't have to worry about that nearly as much. It's been a hot minute since I played that. I just remember reading that when I was doing some research between parts, and I'm going to believe that is true because it was on Zelda Dungeon. Again, I've played 3DS a couple of times, but I haven't played it in so long that some of the changes are kind of absent in the exact context of my brain. But that's the last Gyarado out of the way, which means it's time for us to get the last egg they actively have on hand. Which means now we're gonna need to go find the other 3 eggs, which are in a radically different place, but we'll talk more about that in a few moments. I know I called this section of the game my favorite part of the game when we got to the Great Bay, but admittedly on a first playthrough, it's arguably one of the most stressful, if only because in order to unlock the dungeon here in Great Bay, there are more steps than any of the other areas in the game. And for that factor, it can be pretty intimidating. With that though, I'm actually not going to song a soaring back to the Seaside Lab. We're going to walk back there because I had a pretty good transition point right there. Let's drop off these 2 eggs. Oh, here's what I was talking about. Yeah, if you're just weirdly off-center for some reason, you can't deposit the eggs. I think to help with that in the 3DS version, they retextured the top of this place to make it more obvious where the hitbox is. But it's kind of a weird change at the same time. Before we go get the next 3 eggs, though, we're going to concern ourselves with another side quest or 2 in this area, because there are 3 eggs and I only have 2 bottles. On top of that, there's another side quest you can do right now in the 3DS version that I can do right now as well, but I don't because I'm focusing on doing other things first. It's a side quest that is only available on the first day, by and large, in the N64 release. For really no reason, and that's why the 3DS version really kind of changed that. It's one of the few side quests they actively completely changed the availability of, if memory serves too. So the Fisherman's Hut. If we go behind it, there's a hole we can fall down. In this hole is a treasure chest that I think contains like 20 rupees, nothing super substantial. There's some Dekubabas for sticks and nuts, but the main thing is you can catch a fish in that little puddle of water. There's only 1, and for some reason in my memory there's 2. I want to have both of my bottles filled with these. The best way to do this is just to leave and re-enter the hole. Why? Well, if you were looking around, I think you can even investigate them, and the scientist in the Seaside Lab will talk about it. there's two little fish they have in another tank just to the right of the front door. We want to feed them these fish. With that said, this side quest kinda sucks. If only because it's one of the few in the game that's truly random in how quick it takes. Majora's Mask, by and large, isn't a very random game because NPCs are very scheduled, they always go in the same place. Things like the shooting galleries always go in the same order. You can be pretty consistent on how you play Majora's Mask if you know your way around. So when a moment of real randomness pops up, it does feel pretty annoying. And this is the most obvious case of that in the game. Whee! Zora jumping out of the water, by the way, fun to do, kinda hard to do with some of the jumps they wanted you to do in the Japanese version, which is why they raised the water levels pretty much universally in the Western releases. So, if you place a fish into this tank with the two fish that are already in it, one of them will eat it. Which one of the two it is random. Ultimately, we need to have one of these fish eat 4 fish total in order to get our reward here. That unfortunately means it can take upwards of 6 fish for this side quest to completely proc, I think. Maybe even 7. So it can be random, and I'm just going to cut out getting the latter 2 fish here. I really lucked up this playthrough, and the same fish ate the fish all 4 times? But this can take a little bit, and it's kind of annoying. Once one fish has had 4 fish, it gets morbid pretty quickly. And the big fish eats the other fish, and in reward, vomits out its prey's heart. Ew, it's a sticky heart piece. Ew, it's on my hands. Ew, ew, ew. Next up though, because my bottles are empty, it's time for us to go do the Goron racetrack once again and get more gold dust. I could go get the 3rd bottle and do the entirety of the last 3 eggs right now, but I'd rather wait until we get the first part of the sword upgrades done for a couple reasons, plus there's some other side quests I can do in the meantime throughout Termina Field and otherwise that take up enough time that it's worth it. Hello, child. You want to race? Yeah! And just to help expedite this process, I am going to speed up the Goron race. Remember, this race kind of sucks. Rubber Band AI partnered with pretty aggressive AI on top of that. This can take a couple tries. Thankfully, I think you can just try it this infinitely. I don't think you actually need to pay to compete. But it is pretty much luck-based, and even then, as you can see there, I pulled that pretty close. Don't be like me, though, and accidentally sell this once upon a time. That was embarrassing. I've played this game enough that I have it pretty much memorized. But also, I make just the dumbest mistakes from time to time because, hey, I'm human. It happens. So, our next destination is technically Clocktown, in that my next main destinations are all around just Termina Field, period. But in particular, I want to head into West Termina Field, because you may have even noticed it on our way into Great Bay for the first time. Just to the right of the gate we jumped, there's a rock. There is something we can get in there after we get Zora Link in specific. You don't need to use the Goron to punch that, I always just do. In here we got, actually one of my least favorite enemies visually in the series, Bio-Babas. They are underwater Deku Babas that walk around on their own little plant legs, it's creepy. But the main thing of note in this area is on the ceiling there are 3 beehives we can shoot down with our bow and arrow, and one of them contains the item in question. It's always the same one. I always just shoot all 3 because I can never remember which one it is. I think it's the one on the right, but it might be the far one. I don't think it's the one on the left, though, either way. Float on down, and there's our piece of heart. You might notice we're getting a lot of pieces of heart in pretty quick succession, like I said, I think last part or 2 parts ago. between the end of Snowhead Temple and the end of the third temple is arguably over half the side quests overall between you getting Epona and otherwise. You can really just tear down a lot of the completionism in this game pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. In fact, I want to say I don't actually have the exact numbers off the top of my head yet. But I think at this point we're over, or if we're not over halfway done with the heart pieces, we're closing in on it. I don't have the numbers offhand because I'm editing this Zelda LP a little differently than I used to do the other ones. And the way I did the other ones was, I recorded the footage, I edited the footage, I put the little panes of like Skulltula counts or heart pieces over it, and then I commentated it. This time around, I'm doing the editing, commentating, and then everything else after that. So like the little heart piece numbers haven't been added in yet, even the overlays on the side of the screen haven't yet. Going a little backwards than I tend to, but it's mostly for the sake of efficiency this time around. So our next goal is actually to head back to the Astral Observatory, because you might remember we have 3 of the 5 total heart pieces you can get out of the Title Deed side quest. We still have 2 more to get, one for Great Bay and one for Ikana, and now that we have the hook shot, we can more or less get the other 2. So we're going to take a moment, get the Moon's Tear, and then just take that around to all of the Deku Scrubs very quickly. Thankfully, the only Deku Scrub that actually has a needed upgrade is the one in Goron Village. The latter 2 Dekus, they have good stuff still, don't get me wrong. Mainly for some exorbitant prices in comparison, but it's nothing you need for 100% in comparison besides the heart pieces they technically guard. You could wait to do this until even the next 3-day cycle, even, but since I have the time now, I might as well get it done. With that said, because we've seen about 60% of this side quest already, once I teleport back to Clocktown, we're gonna speed up the other steps just to get them out of the way. As much as I love Majora's Mask, you could argue it has the most redundant steps to do for side quests out of the entire series. Because in other Zelda games, when you do a side quest, you can usually get it all done at once and then you're good. In this, because of the time rewinding, there's gonna be times where you maybe can't do a side quest in its entirety when it's first unlockable, and thus you just have to redo parts of it down the line. And then because of that, there are ways you can probably streamline things by just waiting to do the first steps. But having the rewards early that you can get up to that point feels satisfying enough to me that it's worth doing it multiple times. Also, if you check where a heart piece was for this side quest, after you've already collected it, I think there's just a recovery heart up there. So, not exactly anything super mind-blowing. Now that we have the mountain title deed, though, we're gonna stop progressing this side quest for now right here, because if you remember correctly, we're also meant to be somewhere tonight at 2 a.m. over at Romani Ranch, since she said they were coming, so we only got about 2 hours before then. So, we're just gonna do one other thing this particular night before heading over there. In particular, you might remember before, more or less right after I got the Mikau transformation, we talked to the fisherman here in the first part of Great Bay, and he said he wanted a picture of one of the pirates for that seahorse. Well, we got the picture, so let's go give it to him. You could wait to do this a little bit, but you do need to do this before you go get those last 3 eggs. Sorry, but I don't have any fish to share with you. What about to me now? Help me, please, take me to the waters near Pinnacle Lock. If you want that seahorse, bring me a picture of the female pirate. Here you go, buddy. Oh, well, that's it. That's it. I had a picture like that. Well, aren't you a crafty one? You'll give that to me, won't you? In exchange, I'll give you this. We got a seahorse. Hurry, take it to its home at Pinnacle Rock. It does take up a bottle, though. Thank you. Hurry, take me back to the waters near Pinnacle Rock. So, hear me out, little guy. You're gonna be staying in that bottle for at least another 6-7 hours. Because even though it's not exactly 2 yet, I'm gonna make my way over to Romani Ranch now because I can use this time as well to do a little bit of rupee grinding by killing the little vulture near the entrance to Milk Road at least once or twice. As soon as I remember where I need to go, because I need to go deposit money. While recording this, more or less the way I had this LP structured in my brain was I knew the rough layouts of where I needed to be at what times, and just tell myself I had like a little Word document with the rough notes of where I needed to be when. But every now and then when I actively pull up like the Song of Soaring menu, my brain just empties on where I need to go next. Can't tell if that's the ADHD, the autism, or just me being tired. Maybe a little bit of all three. Nussall gives us a nice little update on where I am rupee-wise. I think because I withdrew to that 100 rupees at the start of this cycle, though, I'm more or less going to be at where I started it, period. But hey, that's going to be extra money that we're going to have now. Yeah, like, we're already near 3,000 rupees. I think we end this three-day cycle pretty close to the end of that. Which I think is one of the earliest times I've ever gotten that high in rupee count without having to actively grind for it ahead of time. Give me your orange rupee. It weirdly tastes like pina colada. Ah, mislabeled candy colors. Getting slightly ahead of ourselves here because we are coming up at the end of the part, though. Before you head into Romani Ranch at 2 a.m., you're going to want to make sure you have as many arrows as possible because you're going to need them in order to actively attack them next part. So roll around, get some grass from around here to get arrows, and then we'll be good. Additionally, in order to make sure the next events play out pretty smoothly, this is one of the few times in the game where you actively want to have time flowing at its normal rate. So if you have the Song of Inverse Time active, deactivate it now by playing it again. It might seem kind of weird and self-defeating because that's going to waste some time, yeah, but we're going to be in this operation until a certain time of day anyway, so you might as well make it go more quickly. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 15, we're going to save Romani Ranch from them, hopefully, and see where we go after that. See you guys then.